That is why we move slowly.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you are listening from. This is Miro African Diaspora TV, MAD. Welcome to the program Think Tank. We are the leading media for representing and promoting African politics and culture. We are live on Facebook and YouTube on this day, 5th November 2022. It is exactly 6 minutes after the hour of 8 p.m. here in Germany and in Nigeria. So I'm your host, Robinson Afamefuna Ambrose. In today's program, we're going to talk about human rights violations. We have Mr. Emeka Udeagbalasi, a senior staff at Nigerian InterSociety, as our guest for this discussion. Mr. Udeagbalasi, welcome to the program Think Tank.
Thank you. Right on.
Yeah. So let's get started. InterSociety, an organization dedicated to civil rights, liberty, and the rule of law, was founded in Nigeria, July 28. Since then, your organization has been consistent with publishing and documenting numerous human rights cases of abuse against innocent Nigerian citizens by state and non-state actors, such as the Nigerian Police and the military. We know that Nigeria is notorious for its disregard to law, but people say that today's disregard to law by the Nigerian government is something that has never been before. What's the problem? What's happening? Can you possibly tell us why it is like that today?
Well, a society is governed by, society. Every society operates, in accordance with the type of government that is in place and the quality of people entrusted with leadership position in that given society. If a society is lucky to be governed democratically by visionary and revolutionary leaders, everything in that country will fall into place. Everything will be coherently arranged. It is a kind of a cycle. When you talk of democracy, you talk of civil liberties, you talk of rule of law, you talk of separation of powers and responsibilities, you talk of checks and balances, because in that of such a given democratic country, must be governed by various arms of government, branches of government, legislative arm, executive arm, judicial arm, and wherein the course of being governed by the three arms of government, there must be separation of powers and checks and balances. And where all these things function, I can tell you that issue of human rights and the rule of law and safe criminal justice systems, will be, coherently operated. Or where reverse is the case, where a country is making mockery of what international standardized democracy and its components agencies, is concerned. Where a country is making mockery of those things, then that country, will not will be operating or governed incoherently. It is worst where such a country is governed by a set of worst leaders, worst public administrators. Then everything will not be in order. And that is the case with the present situation we have in Nigeria.
Okay. So excuse me. It's like you have your system on. A system is probably turned on in your area. So, because I'm getting kind of echo from this place. All right. Hello?
I'm with you.
Yeah, I'm asking if there is a system turned on in your area because I'm getting echo from here.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay. I don't know, but I don't know whether what is the cause, because I hear you clearly here.
Yes. We have
maybe I don't know. Maybe in these days of this thing, you can be having some interruptions by maybe messages coming in or some of these things, streaming lives and all those things. And maybe well, that courageously go ahead and do your program so long you can hear me. Forget about all these stupid agents if they are the ones. So we are not afraid of them.
All right. A source and functioning security. This is just what you just said. Let me just formulate it in another way. A source and functioning security apparatus and legal system are essential for the work of a human rights organization like yours. The Nigerian government, both past and present, like I said, is notorious for its disregard to human rights. Then, how does this shortcomings affect your work?
Well, to a very great, everybody, every right-thinking person, envisions a system that is a workable system, a government that is a workable government. And after God, the next most powerful institution is political institution. Political institution is after God. Political institution, ethically speaking, is a nest in terms of influence and power. And when you get worst leaders, worst persons in control of that political leadership or institutions, then everything will not be in order. And that is the case in Nigeria. Nigeria is not a homogeneous society, it's a heterogeneous society. It's a society of some 386 nationality with maybe 10 or more dominant ones, and with 3 or 4 super dominant ones. That is for ethnic nationalities. beyond that, you have the fact that Nigeria is also multi-religiously composed and multiculturally composed. And for this type of system, there is always a way to govern this type of system better off, to be better off. This type of system is required to be governed pluralistically and secularly. And anything short of this, if for instance, if you try to introduce a kind of unitary system in a multicultural, multi-religious, and multi-ethnic country, then it becomes chaotic. So that means you are not governing the country as it is and as it ought to be. So this has substantially been the problem in this country, where some people from some ethnic groups and groups are trying to lord it to others by fire, and in governing pluralistic society, the constituent ethnic nationalities are always consulted. There is also room for periodic determination of national question. Where are we and where do we go? Where do we go from where? From here, and how do we live, and so on and so forth. And if you look at this instance I have given you now, it played out in some countries in recent years. If you look at the former Union of Soviet Socialist Republic, you find out that the inability of those in charge of their political machinery to continue to determine why the constituent units of the union will continue to live apart, to live together, led to fragmentation. If you also look at Yugoslavian Federation, the same thing, and so on and so forth. Cases you have some constituent units that used to be one. So somewhere along the line, they decided to, in determination of their national question, they decided to live, and somewhere along the line again, they met again and decided to live together with condition, under terms and conditions applied. If you look at something like countries like South and North Korea, you look at countries like former East and West Germany, now United Germany, and so many countries are that. If you look at Czechoslovakia, that used to be one day, somewhere along the line, they had what they call Velvet Revolution that led to division of the country into Czechs and Slovakia or something like that. So instances abound. So, but in the case of Nigeria, and that is a fundamental problem Nigeria has. So when you have in a country of pluralism, and you have some people from one-sided ethnic nationality or grouping, try to say that we are the lords. We are born to rule, others are born to be ruled. There you have a problem. And that is why, whenever a country is plunged into such abuse, socio-political abuse, that country will never recover until the fundamental national question in that country is determined. Without an answer to that fundamental national question, there shall be never, effective, peaceful coexistence or national cohesiveness and economic growth and development and the advance of human rights and civil liberties, social justice system. That is where the problem of Nigeria, is rested. Especially it got worse to this chronic and protracted stage since mid 2015 till now. The country has become riotous, calamitous,
Yeah.
backward, and what have you, retrogressive, acutely underdeveloped. In fact, we are having a country where it appears that goons and nincompoops are in charge of the admission of the affairs of men and women. And that is why the country has continuously gone awry. Everything in the country has continuously and chronically gone awry. And the reaching the nadir of irreversibility and protracted. So that's the situation we have right now in the country called Nigeria.
Okay. Let me ask you another thing that has to do with your should I say your colleagues or people doing similar work, the UNESCO, you know, this organization, for example, UNESCO, or so I mean, it's not just UNESCO. Some other human rights organization like that of yours have stated that you know there is that the political and economic measure taken by government are not sufficient, to achieve a lasting and sincere popular support. I mean, these are essentially what I've just mentioned, and this idea that there must be, a peaceful state must be based on dialogue and mutual understanding. These are emphasis. I mean, these are things you have just mentioned. I would like to know how do you guys? I mean, your organization, do you have a continuous or serious relationship or communication with other organizations like the UNESCO?
Well, when you talk of UNESCO, you talk of, it quickly reminds you of the structure of the United Nations.
Okay.
The United Nations was formed in 95.
Yes.
And it actually took off in 1946 when its predecessor, the League of Nations, was wound up.
Exactly.
So, and the formation of United Nations, the United Nations was structured along 7 organs. And you just mentioned a branch of an organ of UN called Economic and Social Council organ of United Nations. And the Economic and Social Council that you can find UNESCO, you mentioned World Health Organization, UNICEF, blah, 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 World Trade Organization, and all that. International Refugee, what this one, that the branch that has to do with refugee and things like that. Even the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, UDHR, and what have you. That's the Nation Human Rights Council. They are all grouped under Economic and Social Council as an organ of United Nations. So now just mention UNESCO. UNESCO is a body of United Nations, expertise body of United Nations that assesses the performance of certain indices, social indices in a country, like human rights, like democracy, development, education, and things like that, And they also come to congregate and aggregate the factors that are fundamentally required for a country to move on. For instance, is another UN body that is called UNDP, United Nations Development Program. In 1994, the UNDP came up a kind of solution to public governance by developing countries, and they call them Human Security Index. Human Security Index, and that Human Security Index, you have the postulated 7 dimensions to human security, and if any leadership, if any country, any developing country is able to key into that 7 dimensions of human security, UNDP human security, and implement implement them to, then that country will never be the same again. So that is where the issue. So we operate and in line without losing the sight of the fact that everything as this country, this world is concerned, is revolved around the United Nations system. Then after United Nations system, you go to regional bases like Organization of American States, Africa Union, European Union, things like that. Association of Southeast Asian States, Gulf Council, and stuff like that. And even independent, that is those people, those countries that emerged from the Soviet Union, former Soviet Union, and so on, and former Eastern Europe. Some of them are members of UN, EU now. So that is where point is, driving at. Of course, when we are necessary, we do communicate or liaise or have one or two things in common with any United Nations body, because we exist today in accordance with the United Nations system, the human rights principles, things like that, the African Union human rights principles, and what have you, the Nigerian human rights principles, because Nigeria cannot exist outside the confines of the African Union. Nigeria cannot exist also outside the confines. If you also look at the founding principles of the United Nations, it talks about maintenance of international peace and security.
Yes.
As a cardinal of every member state of the United Nations. As at last count, there are 193 independent states, member states of the United Nations, and Nigeria is one of them, having gained her independence in 1960, 1st October. That's the situation. So our works are tailored, in line with the United Nations system, African Union system, the law, the Nigerian body of laws have human face, and they have international regional compatibility.
All right. Okay. Okay. Let me take it this way. Many people believe that the number of acts of violence against innocent people in Nigeria by non-state actors such as Boko Haram and Fulani has reached unprecedented levels since the current government took office. What is your assessment of this?
I think the violence against the citizens in Nigeria, whether by state actor and non-state actors, has reached a maddening stage. Statistically speaking, we have been documenting and following and monitoring the state actor and non-state actor violence against members of civilian population and their properties since 2010, 2 years after we were formed. The organization, the InterSociety, was formed. So, and we have been documenting, in fact, our statistics, our data bank has credibly served and still serving many policy makers, diplomats, and the government leaders, intergovernmental, non-governmental, and governmental establishments around the world. Our statistics have been copiously quoted at the White House, at the European Union, British Parliament, and all over the place across the world. So we are in the know, credibly and statistically in the know of the situation of insecurity in the country. And not only the situation of insecurity, we also have answer as to who is killing who and why.
We come to that.
Am I communicating?
Yes, of course. You are communicating.
So we are also in the we are statistically in the know and intellectually in the know of the level of maddening level of violence against defenseless citizens and their property. And not only that, we're also in the know of who is killing who and why, where, when, and how. So all these answers are contained in a research report. So in terms of a state actor, non-state actor, just like I told you, this is a country that if the constituent ethnic nationalities that make up Nigeria have been credibly and popularly allowed to determine how they want to govern, how they want to exist, how they want to govern, this problem wouldn't have reached, gotten to this extent. In a country, in every social setting, you don't force your will on people. You allow the will of the people to reign supreme. You must have to allow the constituent ethnic nationalities to determine how they want to be governed and how they want to operate, whether they want to govern through confederalism or federalism or autonomy or what have you. So, and the failure to allow this has, historically led to several civil wars and collapse of state armed forces of many countries, security forces of many countries, and many territories. And they have also led to killing or massacre of millions from Rwanda to Ethiopia to South Sudan to many innumerable others. And if you look at the countries that have been able to put their national question in the front burner, that country is buoyant. At least they can live. They have been seen to be living in peace and poverty with dignity. Apologies to former president of Haiti, Reverend Father Jean Bertrand Aristide. So if you look at Tanzania, Tanganyika and Zanzibar, formed in 1964. They have remained, Tanzania has remained the most stable, one of the most stable countries in Africa, yet it's a poor country. But because they have been able to resolve national question, how they want to live and how they want to govern, and that is what they are doing. Any day they break that code, you will see Tanzania going into abyss. So that is why you've seen most of the peace accords and what have you, Arusha Accord, this accord that have they all took place and so on and so forth. But in the case of Nigeria, the fundamentals that have been responsible for killings, it are not just taking place. Like the dictatorial president of Rwanda, was said 1994 during the Rwandan genocide. The Radio France International asked him, Brigadier, why has these killings suddenly stopped? And the man told them, the killings have suddenly stopped, not because of changing of heart, but because there are few people left to be killed. You see? So that is exactly the case with Nigeria. The idiots that are in the position of authority in Nigeria are waiting for Nigeria to descend to the level of whereby there will be few people will be to be killed. If they don't want the reality, people have continued to be killed. The foundation of every government is the ability of that government to protect the vulnerable population. And Nigeria here, the criminals are the criminals are those being protected. The idiots that are in uniform are those being protected. Vulnerable population are those are being made sacrificial lambs day in, day out. That is the situation. So it is correct to say that the level of killings in Nigeria, killing of vulnerable population, women, children, aged, and the defenseless others have reached a maddening stage and are approaching the stage of irreversibility and uncontainment.
Okay. Your work is actually based on sound research. You know, and you have wealth of information on this issue of abduction by state and non-state actors. But before we go further, let me show you pictures, because the issue of killing by non-state actors such as the Fulani herdsmen, that essentially has been baptized bandits by the Nigerian mainstream media. It's not something of today. It has been going on since 2015, and it has reached the level of in which it is today. But before I go to my question, I want to show you pictures, and I would like you to respond to these pictures. Okay? Can you hear me, Mr.
Go ahead. I'm here.
All right. So, we have this picture. It is about the DDP camp there in Zamfara. Because we are talking about the killing in Nigeria. This killing encompasses, it touches every ethnic in Nigeria. It's not, no ethnic is excluded. Of course, there are people that are not targeted, but in honest, we must say that there is no ethnic group excluded apart from those that are perpetrating the evil act themselves. So, in the next picture, we have the Fulani herdsman roaming around with his stick this time. Okay? And and then here we have the Benway massacre. I think that's in 2021. No, 2020 or 2021. I'm not quite sure. I'm not precise about it. And then in this picture, we have the Fulani herdsman. And then here we have an issue with an ethnic group. Okay? This girl is known as Udera Gold. She's been abducted for a long time, and recently I heard the news that she's been found in the DSS prison. I'm not sure it's been released. And here we have Mama Biafra, popular name. And then my question now is, given by this abduction that goes around not just in one ethnic group, but almost all the ethnic groups in Nigeria are feeling the heat of one ethnic group taking ransom, abducting, and nothing is happening. So my question on this issue, of course, because your organization, you are doing a humanitarian work, it's a human rights work that you are doing. Just like many other organizations, they get support from government in order for them to carry out such wonderful tests. My question is there any joint work between your organization and the Nigerian government to address the issue of growing insecurity in Nigeria?
Well, it boils to the work of a researcher and investigator. Under normal circumstances, what a researcher or investigator sees, 90% others do not see them until after some years. Because for you to see what a researcher sees, you must have to go and do and have expertise in research and investigation, and not only that, and be able to go to the field and do the work. That's why if you go to state, it's Alabama, a research state. So coming to your question, first thing you must understand in all these analyses, brief analysis you have given is, first of all, you have to understand the history, the root, the cause of the problems you have just mentioned. The truth of the matter is that The jihadist Fulani herdsmen you mentioned, yes, they are part of the problem. You must have to understand the menaces of the non-actor and opposition groups and what they are fighting for. You mentioned Zamfara State. Zamfara is the home base, is the birth state, is a state where the jihadist bandits, Fulani bandits, originated. They started in 2011 as a ragtag group, muscling power with the local Muslim population over minor community common issues. And the 13, they got transformed from ragtag group to full formidable jihadis, jihadis, that is jihadis group. So talk of bandits, the so-called bandits, we call them jihadist bandits in Nigeria. They originated from Zamfara State in Maradun local government area of Zamfara State in 2011. After 2 years, they got transformed. And getting transformed means that the political extremists and the security extremists within the Nigerian government or Nigerian political establishment move in and have them regimented and assign them task. Then from there, the banditry extended to other states around the region with their regimentation. They now began to the extent. So in Zamfara State, you have Fulani. You are correct. The group identity of the Fulani, the bandits, or those behind banditry in the north, Fulanis. Then you go to Boko Haram. Boko Haram are made up of people from Borno State. And historically speaking, I'm sure you are aware that during the time of Shehu, what is the name of these jihadists? The Danfodio of a man, that is the
Usman Danfodio.
Fulani jihadists in Nigeria. In that time, in 1800, and so on and so forth, and upwards. That area of 1804, that area, they started arriving in late 1700 from their camp in where they originated from, Futajaru in Senegal, what have you. So now that Nigeria could not the Fulani incursion is to penetrate the Boronu aspect. That is the Kanam Boronu Empire. Then the Kanam Boronu Empire. So the Boko Haram, despite the fact Muslims, when Boko Haram was formed, then Boko Haram was a ragtag group, that was restricted to Borno State, one local area of Borno State. Then at a point they got regimented by the same political extremists in Nigeria, northern part of the country, who wanted to undermine the government of Jonathan. That is Jonathan. And the whole thing started in 2000 after 12 states adopted Sharia. So that was the origin of Boko Haram. Then I have just told you the brief origin of the Fulanis that are responsible for bandits. So you must understand the fact that the killings that are going on in the north are usually a kind of, you know, from our investigation, it was the killings had to do with Fulani uprising against the indigenous Hausa Muslim population. When federal government talking about Christians are not being targeted alone, that Muslims are being killed in Sokoto, you ask if being killed in Zamfara, being killed in Basina, ask the federal government to give you the identities of those, ethnic identities of those being. It is Fulani uprising against the indigenous Hausa Muslim population. We did the investigation in Kebbi State and found out that the victims of Fulani banditry attack in Kebbi State are 50-50, 50% Muslims, but they are Hausa Muslims. That is the situation with respect to what is going on in the killings in those core Muslim northern areas. Then I have just told you about the history of Boko Haram. Boko Haram rose and uprooted all the Christian communities in Borno, in Yobe, in Adamawa, and they are also making advances in Taraba State. These are the people that have sons. There is this church that is called EYN. I'm forgetting the full name, but the church is EYN. If you Google it, it will tell you them. EYN. EYN is a church, missionary church that first get the ground in Borno, Amawa, and what have you. But during the time of Boko Haram, this in how many years is this? 6 years between 2009 and 2021. The church alone lost over 8,600 members, including 30 pastors, and dozens of their churches were burned to ashes. So that is the havoc for Boko Haram. I just want to specify so that you know where the problem is. I'm done with the Boko Haram. I just told you the history of banditry, Fulani banditry in northern Nigeria. Then coming to Fulani herdsmen. Yeah, Fulani herdsmen are those who have made so much inroad into the government of the day. Perhaps maybe their grand patron, life patron, used to be, happen to have ascended to the president country. Let me tell you, Fulani herdsmen of let's say 2000 and 2000, from 2000 down, Fulani herdsmen from 2000, or to be on the safe side, from 1999 down and today. That time, the Fulani herdsmen, you see, the Fulani herdsmen used to be, what do I call it? Cattle rearers, pure cattle rearers that moved southward, middle belt ward during the rice season. They don't even live where they settle. They settle temporarily because of the fact that this part of the country is what is called rainforest zone, as against where they. So they move from one community to the other, one forest to the other, to pasture their flock, that is their cattle, herds of cattle, and what have you, and other livestock, animals. After which they go back. That has been their patterns and trends of animal husbandry. But from 2001, between 2001 and between 2001 and 2007, they got involved. They were half regimented. They were recruited into and crashes in Plateau, southern Kaduna, and to an extent Benue State. That was, I'm thinking you must have heard of Joyce's, the role they play. For instance, in 2004, up to 700 Christians were killed. Then there were, few reprisals. So that was where the violence was, reduced. But from 2011, after the emergence of Jonathan, to 2014, the Fulani herdsmen move closer, move higher, a bit higher, above the level of bestiality, by getting involved in a plot to undermine the government of Jonathan, who was a Christian, who is still a Christian.
Was that the same year? When wasn't that the same year when the president?
No, I'm coming. So now I'm just trying to tell you the stages of their involvement and their level of violence and escalation. Then, for instance, before 2015, nowhere in Igbo land where Fulani herdsmen settled. There is no place in Igbo land you see where Fulani herdsmen settled and live permanently. But from 2000, upon the assumption of office in 2015, the Fulani herdsmen ascended to the position of authority in Nigeria, centrally ascended to the position of authority in Nigeria with a mission. And that mission, their mission was transformed from undermining the government of Lord Jonathan, who was a Christian, to full-state jihadism. That's the gist of transformation of Fulani herdsmen. The monster we have today. So by 2015, they captured power under the presidency of the Grand Petron. By late 2015, there was secret national mapping, forest mapping. A lot of people who participated, it was a secret military exercise. Unfortunately, a lot of people that participated were deceived. They didn't know the mission. I hope you are hearing me.
I'm listening. Go on.
Then by 2016, there was secret deployment of Fulani herdsmen, all the forest, bush and farmlands across the southeast and south, and the middle belt, particularly Benue State, and Plateau, where they have been operating. And of course, some states in Northeast, Christian state in Northeast, like Taraba, what have you, even Gombe, and things like that. So the menace, the jihadist menace, the jihadist escalation, bestiality and herdsmen in Nigeria officially took place in 2016. And unfortunately, when that movement started, the Nigerian military was deceiving Nigerian, telling Nigerian that they were doing one form of militarization in southern Nigeria or the other. And when we carried out investigation, for instance, we went to Ogbe, part of Abia State, and one other community. We found out that it was during that time that new military bases were established to protect the newly deployed Fulani herdsmen in Ogbe Forest and other places, Asa Forest and things like that. It got bad to the extent that wherever you have a military checkpoint and there is a forest nearby, check it. It must be inhabited by Fulani herdsmen. That is the extent all these things went. Even to the point that a retired deputy inspector general of police, it was InterSociety that the first announced the taking over and occupation of 139 loans in the southeast by jihadist Fulani herdsmen. That was in 2019. By 2020, we expanded that research work and found the number to have increased to 350, from 350 to 400. We now went to Kogi part of Igbo land, Benue part of Igbo land, Edo part of Igbo land, Delta part of Igbo land, Rivers part of Igbo land, and found out Nasarawa part of Igbo land, and found out that the locations occupied by Fulani herdsmen has rapidly increased to over 700. Then was later corroborated by a newly retired Deputy Inspector General of Police who was in charge of intelligence. I will mention his name, who issued a statement either in 2020 or 2021, affirming that when he was a DIG intelligence, he received intelligence that the Fulani herdsmen armed with AK-47 assault rifles have been moved to occupy, and they occupied at least 336 locations in the southeast. Yeah, it's on record if you Google it, see it. So, telling us, why I have to go down memory lane is for Nigerians to understand, for listeners to understand where the problem is. The killings are not just taking place. There are motivators. There are those who are responsible for what is happening in Nigeria because they are uncomfortable with the multicultural and religious composition of Nigeria. They now, want to make Nigeria a unipolar religious, ethno-religious group. And that is what is happening in Nigeria. And if you look at the response of the government, zeroing your question down to what you asked, whether we are relating with the government and what have you. If you look at the body language of the government of the day, you find out that, it's nothing to write home about. The government of the day is fully complicit. And
no, the question was supposed to be asked because the government consistently claims that it's involved in maintaining security. That's its primary effort. And then one would ask, if the government is doing that, what are they doing with an important organization like the InterSociety that has founded information about ongoing issues and can as well help government in addressing the issue? That's why
that is where the foundation, it boils down to foundation. It boils down to borderline. It boils down to motive. The government you are talking about, forget about what he said in the open. Panic is telling the whole world in the open that is going to conduct free, fair, and credible election. Until you conduct investigation, you're on air to uncover motive, the real motive behind what are actually cooking. So the question here is what is Nigeria actually cooking? Is Nigeria serious? Nigeria meant serious? Then what measures have Nigerian government adopted? One of the endangered spots in southeast is Unochi in Abia State. Unochi is where Anambra, Imo, Abia, and Ebonyi meet. It is a southeast triangle. Unochi is one of the most dangerous spots in Igbo land. Why? Because it is presently occupied by jihadist forcemen. If you are approaching as we are talking now, if you're approaching that Unochi, you will see police checkpoint, military checkpoint every pole. Yet, people are kidnapped there. Men, leaders are kidnapped there. Many, in fact,
so what point for?
No, ask them. You direct the question to the federal government now. Ask them why they are there. Sometimes commuters' buses were late. and the passengers taken inside, some of them do not return alive. We have evidence, of course. I'm sure you know. You must have had the testimony of the prelate of a Methodist Church,
Yes.
and several others.
Yes.
So after Umunnocha, another dangerous area is Isi in Enugu State. These are two most dangerous places in Igbo land right now. Isi area of Enugu State and Umunnocha. These are where two Fulani herdsmen have placed, and the Nigerian government has pretended have looked the other way around. And he said, you go and check out the 99.5% of statements coming from Nigerian security agencies they had in the Southeast. Of all the operated percent of the operations against IQB and ESN in quote, even when they go and arrest Curtis, they call Curtis ESN or IPOB. They arrest pickpocketers. They are IPOB. In fact, the implication of their intelligence and military operations is that they are no armed robbers. They are no longer kidnappers in the Southeast. They are no longer street criminals. That's what the correct terminology given to it in our field of discipline. That is criminology and security studies. They are no longer street criminals in the Southeast. Despite the Southeast is a blue-collar state, it's a blue-collar region. No longer street criminals like armed robbers, kidnappers, murderers, rapists, cultists, and so on and so forth. Thieves, carjackers, you don't have them. As far as Nigerian security agencies are concerned, the only criminals that exist, exist in the Southeast are, in quote, IPOB and ESN.
Okay.
No jihadist Fulani herdsmen in the Southeast.
What your statement entails, let me just comment there. What your statement entails is that the IPOB and ESN is perhaps a kind of coinage by the government of the day to arrest Nigeria.
That's the thing. Is a deacon, is a ground upon which they perpetrate whatever. And to tell you the truth, as a security part and part, even when they carry out that operation, in fact, what they do is to what we call hate police and soldiering. In other words, they are engaged in profiling.
Yeah.
There is something in America called, I've forgotten the terminology, job filing. So here, any woman that is arrested is either a wife of an IPOB member, or a girlfriend of IPOB member, or a mother of IPOB member, or in-law, mother-in-law of the member, or sister of IPOB member. You can imagine that. These people, okay, their bestiality has gotten to the point of even, whereby they go after women in labor, nursing mothers. We have records, we have statistics. I've been a field investigator even before I became a criminologist and graduate of security studies. I've been a grassroots human rights and campaigner since 1995, when I was 20-something, in my mid-20s. So I'm just telling you with graphic statistics, not just a story. These guys have gone to the extent of arresting nursing. That's an abominable act. Mothers in women in labor. And when you ask them, they say, we have intelligence that man that was about to deliver is a wife of IPOB member. Can you imagine that? All over the world, transfer of criminal responsibility is prohibited. Don't do that. If somebody is an IPOB member, by the way, who gives them power to kill or go after somebody who is unarmed? The law says go after somebody who commits a crime. or who is about to commit a crime. And that is when you cite evidence, count evidence, that the person is armed, and unless he's stopped, it can cause havoc. That's the law. But these people, as a result of ethno-religious and hate, they will just look at it. Oh, what is the name? He's IPOB member. What is the so the mother of that IPOB member arrest her. And that's the situation we have.
And nothing will
so
happen.
We are dealing with the government and non-state actors in the country. So it's like the federal government is responsible for collection of the criminality, the impact across Nigeria. I tell you that in 2015 and 2015, there used to be 3 well-known jihadist groups in Nigeria. Only 3: Boko Haram, Ansalu, Movement for the Advancement of Black Muslims in Black Africa. That's another name, Ansalu. And the ISWAP, Islamic Movement for West Africa, or what have you. ISWAP. Yes. These are it. But right now, Nigeria has not less than 15 jihadis and non-jihadis armed fighting parties or armed opposition groups. If I may be permitted to borrow the word from Amnesty International, the number of, and there's dozens of others that are still at their embryonic stages. Find out that it is this government that has exported and escalated the insecurity across the country. When you push people to the wall, people will resort to self-help. So that is the issue. So it's not just about talking about insecurity in the country, whether what the government is doing. And if you look at the excuses of government, it's also funny. Farmers, headers, clashes. Which clashes? Where is the proportionality of farmers, headers, clash or clashes?
Okay. Let me show you this video, and then I will ask you a question. You've actually said a lot of things concerning this video I'm going to show you, but I think I will look into it very well and we'll see how we approach it.
Kazanodi kemi jette noga e joy mbiɗa kemi jette noga e joy kazanodi sila de kemi nayi foti mbiɗa kemi nayi sappo jafata sila de kemi nayi sappo sila de kemi nayi sappo kazanodi kemi jette jafaɗam kemi nayi sappo silaji de kazanodi kemi jette
Andi abo kadi sadi.
Silaji kemi nayi wasa ɗo maji ɗon heɓan famu koɗi silaji kemi nayi silaji sappo nani kemi nayi e sappo eyo ɗum silaji
Okay. What we're actually seeing here is the arsenal of the Fulani jihadists. But before we go further, let me show you yet another video. Not this.
mu da gaskiya muke aiki ba mu cutar mutane kaga mu wannan shine kai da mashayi mu amma muna nan za mu yi nasiha ya tuba ku duba shi ku gani ga nan wai dogo hanshi Allahu akbar Allahu akbar kaga yara wai ana waɗannan su alaji zan zuka tsoro su wai haushin su suke ji sai sun zo sun kashe su ba ku ji tsoron Allah ba mu ba barayi bane mu ba barayi bane kowa ya ce mu barayi ne Allah yi mai mu ba barayi bane mu Allah muke bi da manzon Allah wallahi tallahi kaga da bunduga muka aiki nan duniya nan sai dai lahira ka abba mu sani ba Allah akbar Allah
I don't know, do you understand Hausa? Anyhow, a bit. Do you understand Hausa at all? Mr. Udeagbalasi.
So,
do you understand Hausa language?
just explain. From here, we've seen many of such.
All right. Okay. So, one, I'm asking the question is because what they are saying is actually relevant to the discussion, in the sense that the young man there was saying that they are not criminals. Anybody who says they are criminal, the person is mad. They are moving with their gun, and this is their area. Anyone who wants to challenge them. So it is still going to the same discussion about if the government of the day is closing the eye for one ethnic group, why it continues to arrest one ethnic group, another, and frame them up as criminals. So the sense here is that many Nigerians feel that the government is only addressing, the insecurity problem, in a biased way. For example, it deliberately allows people such as those guys we have seen, the Fulani herdsmen and the so-called Fulani bandits, who kidnap people all over the country and demand ransom, a room free. On the other hand, innocent Nigerians and other ethnic groups are unlawfully arrested, such as the people that frame IPOB, as we have just explained. They are arrested, detained in certain places, tortured and killed, and nothing happened. Well, my question would have been, if you had not made all these statements you have made, if this is in fact based on your information, but you have made clear that it is actually the activities of the government. So the idea now is, the question here is, where do we go from here? What is going to happen in this circumstance? How is it going to end? Do you see any end to this situation?
Well, I think Nigeria is speedily heading to depredation. Nigeria is heading to a collusion point of no return. And our worry is that with the kind of population we have in the country, the UN estimate is putting Nigerian population to over 280 million. And with this kind of population, if there is going to be a Syrian example, for instance, in Nigeria, then, or even Libyan example, if Nigeria is allowed to descend to complex humanitarian emergency, let me borrow of the United Nations, and definitely there is going to be a serious humanitarian crisis. Already the political system is shaking. And the worry here is that if the politics is revolutionarily forced to collapse, point of center can no longer hold. With the influx of small arms light weapons in Nigeria, illicit arms and light weapons in Nigeria, approaching 10 million, over 10 million, with armed opposition groups, rising, being raised from left, right, and center across the country. Then Nigeria will be so collapsed that there will be no remedy. And it is always good for, like what the respected Reverend Father President, former President of Haiti told, what he told Americans. He told the Americans that, look, we know that Haitians are aware that they are poor, but the Americans should be allowed them and should allow them to live in peace, in poverty, with dignity. So, fragmentation, collapse of a state is inevitable, but it serves that people of the state, that particular area, better when that collapse is done peacefully. And that is why you still have Czech Republic, Slovakia Republic, and any country that got fragmented calamitously or violently, it will take them decades to recover. If you look at Union of Soviet Socialist Republic, which fragmented into 15 states, 15 countries, those countries have continued to exist, with few being embroiled in crisis. Most of them are still exist, except Ukraine that has issue with Russia, Mother Russia. If you look at Yugoslavia, whereby 6 countries, was formed out of former Yugoslavia, you will see that those countries, none of the republic has overcome the effect of the protracted civil war, 2000 to 19. I think so, 1993 or the other to 2001 or things like that. So what we are saying here is that the level, the where the country is heading to, if nothing is done to force those who are causing the country this kind of havoc, who are wreaking havoc in the country, the humanitarian crisis coming from Nigeria will envelope Europe, America, Asia, and even Africa. We are talking about 280 million people. I don't think Syria is up to 20 million. But look at the humanitarian. To the extent that half of Syrian population have become displaced in a war that started in 2011. So that is where our worry is. So regardless of, so we are concerned, we are worried, because it's the political structure we have today seems to be in the hands of that hard clique of unrepentant and remorseless fellows who self-interest, we do any to push their selfish interests over the colors of the remaining 99% Nigerians. And that is where the problem is. Some people had the opportunity of govern and they leave. Govern minimum or maximum of 8 and leave, so that others will take over. They now got in there and said, no, we are not going to leave. And everybody must become a particular religious practitioner, whether you like it or not. Just like you asked whether I know how to speak outside language. It is their insistence that everybody must speak outside language, speak Arabic, and they do accord, do is their religious, embrace their religious practice or practices. And that is where the problem is. And people must react. People must react. You can't and expect them not to do anything. There are things that you cannot take away from people. People's right to development, people's right to ethnic identity, and people's right to existence of existence. And these are the actions of African Charter on Human and African Charter on Human and People's Rights, double. And it is that cabal in Nigeria is attacking, tenting, and polluting, bastardizing with utter alacrity and impunity. We are not just human rights organization. If you look at our thematic area, we said we are democracy and human rights campaigners. So my contributions here, as you can see, so I'm taking together the principles of democracy and principles of human rights together, because democracy cannot exist without human rights, and human rights cannot exist without democracy. Democracy and human rights are interwoven and related. They can't exist without another. They must exist together. And these are the things that are like. So here today, the principles of democracy are nowhere to be found. Principles of human rights are nowhere to be found. And it becomes in force who have remained. If you take a look at the human rights development or movement in Nigeria from 2015 to date, I'm sure you ask yourself, where have the human rights leaders gone? Have they disappeared into the moon? Where have they gone?
Yeah.
We used to read human rights report. In fact, they are used to go School of Human Rights, Lagos. Where have they gone? They have all fizzled out.
Okay.
So it's a fact. So even to the extent that this government is responsible for, according to Carnegie Foundation, university scholar, the research the fellow was conducted last year, he found out that the present government are responsible for registration of over 360 government-affiliated NGOs. So if InterSociety issues a report today against the activities of some atrocious security chiefs, 24 hours, you will see more than 20 fictitious NGOs addressing press conferences, attacking the report of InterSociety, canonizing the criminal, the culpable security chiefs. That's how bad the things have gotten in Nigeria under this dispensation. So that's my take.
Okay. Thank you very much. Let me pick up our last question. But let me show you this video once again, and I'll pick up our last question. This is first one. There are two. What with I mean, for viewers, I don't know if you don't see that clearly. We have the Fulani herdsmen cutting the yam tubers of a farmer and feeding their cows with it. The next video.
I swear number. No magazine, but I'm number. Clean color. See, I clean one. Tear leader. I swear. Tear leader. Manta. I swear. Yeah. Like I was so far. Yeah, I was so far. Boy, I'm you color now. We don't
Kazan kemi jette no.
Okay, so we were talking about the state-sponsored terrorism, state-sponsored violence against innocent civilians, innocent Nigerians, if you will. And the question here is, in the recent, there is a large number of Fulani, people seems to be hiding in the bush. You've mentioned a lot of bush in the eastern part of the country, and it is suspected that they are, of course, those people there. People say they are Fulani, and there is no reason to doubt it. However, there are rumors that Nigeria is on the verge of being conquered by the Islamist jihad. You have also mentioned that. So my question is, by seeing these type of videos that I've just shown you now, this video that I've shown you it's just one of many that can be seen on the internet. So there are numerous of them. Can we take these kinds of video footage circulating on the internet as a clear indication that Nigeria will soon be conquered by the Islamist jihad? Or is there no need to be worried at all? That's the
the issue there is that whether video or no video, I think the important thing is that we have gathered more than video, more authentic information than those videos, because when you talk of video footages, before you can use them criminologically, you have to subject them to a lot of series of technological tests to be able to ascertain where. But of course, some of them do not require to be put through those processes because of the inbuilt natural ingredients. For instance, you hear somebody saying he's brandishing an AK-47 and speaking different language, but mentioning Biafra will suffer and what have you. Of course, one cannot be camouflaged. You cannot say that video clip footage is taken from Central African Republic or South Sudan or what have you. So those ones are there. But beyond that, the video footages, I think there have been military helicopters dropping weapons to a group of jihadist armed men. We've had such testimonies in Southern Kaduna. We have spoken with leaders of Sokapu, Southern Kaduna People's Union, on the issue. have testimonies, to that effect that 2021, 2020, even in Taraba, even in Niger State. If you go to Niger State is the state with the most largest landmass in Nigeria, and I can tell you that about 4 or 5 local government areas have substantial number of Christian settlements. Something like local government like Kiroro, Munya, Rafi, what have you. These are local government with substantial populations. We are aware that today substantial part of them have been overrun by the jihadist bandits and their alliances. Like sometimes part of the alliances are Boko Haram elements, the SWAP, and what have you. They have overrun substantial part of those Christian communities. Secretly, they have forced them into being converted to Islam, and sometimes their places of worship have become more things like that. So
Transform.
yeah, so we have series in Taraba. We have several cases in Yobe. There was a Christian community that used to have churches and what have you, but today churches there are no more, and all that in Yobe, in Adamawa, in Chibok area of Borno. Borno used to be composed of 30% Christians and 20% in one senatorial district. Borno used to have substantial Christian population. Even in KB, one senatorial district in KB used to have substantial Christian population, and things like that. It's true. It is like that in Yobe, Gombe, even in Bauchi, the Tafa Belewa area. So, but these guys have come, and through the secret alliance with the government of the day, they have penetrated everywhere. So there have been concrete evidence, not even video, concrete evidence of, by people testifying that they saw, like in Southern Kaduna, they saw military helicopters dropping weapons of these jihadis. In fact, at a certain location in Niger State, the locals have to track down one of the helicopters with this one of bees. I think that happened last 2 years. So there have been, so it's not the issue. So it's real. The project is real. If you want to be convinced more, you look at the motive behind certain government policies that purely jihadists in correlation. If you look at Ruga,
Okay.
if you look at let me come.
Yeah.
If you look at Ruga, if you look at I'm trying to substantiate so that program will also have credibility, not just showing video. So that we have international credibility. You need to have some statistics to back up what you have just displayed. So you have federal, this what of the National Livestock Transformation Plan. It is jihadist in nature. Go and check out the structures and facilities and people, ethnic identity of people who are there, who are deployed there. You check out Nigerian Military ranching, Army ranching, go and check out their locations. See things for yourself. The Nigerian waterway plan, plan, go and check out the implementation. And so they're like agro rangers that they just, came up with. Go and check out the people that are there. So even in groups, when there is a serious suspicion, you ask yourself, what are the time? I'm sure you would have asked me what our state so-called governors are doing. You ask yourself, you go and check out the origin of the circumstance, what is going on in Ebubag, so-called Ebubag. You ask yourself, when they formed Ebubag, they said Ebubag is a substitute to use of ESN to checkmate the Fulani herdsmen attacks our farmlands, bushes, arrests. Then as a presenter, ask yourself question, or ask their governors, if you have their contact, especially the people and their body. How many herdsmen have we back arrested? How many of our innocent people have been back killed? It's happening in Ebonyi State politically, culturally, and economically with a bag experiment. What is happening in Imo, economically, politically, and what have you with a bag experiment, and so on and so forth. So why have a bag not been able to flush out the jihadi Fulani herdsmen at Umun, laying siege and wreaking havoc at Umun Noche in the past 2 years? So that is the situation, my brother.
Thank you very much. In a summary, one can say that the government of the day is running a jihadist policy, and
of course,
there is perhaps
the government from all intents and purposes is a jihadist in every policy. The policy direction of the government is jihadist in nature. It is even plain now. Look at the election that they are planning to do. A central ruling party in a country of 50-50 Muslim Christian position and multi-ethnic groups, and the central ruling party find it comfortable, projecting Muslim presidencies to vice presidency candidates or candidature. So what else do you need? What else do you need? Do you know the implication of that? In a country like this, you now come, you have a Christian, a Muslim president, a Muslim vice president. Even in Sudan, see 2000 and what? 2000 is it not 2019? Sudan was running a Christian vice president and Christian president ticket. Sudan until 2019. The vice president of Sudan must be a Christian. The president of Sudan, because of their majority Muslim, must be a Muslim. Even in London, the president of Lebanon, the position of the president of Lebanon is while the position of prime minister is reserved for Muslims. So yeah, in Nigeria, where you have 50-50 Muslim, approximately 50-50 Muslim Christians, and the ruling party is projected comfortably Muslim ticket. So what evidence? What else do you need to be convinced that this government is running a pro-jihad government? Is in our policy direction jihadist statism. That's the fact. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And it's been a wonderful time with you getting all this information. I mean, there is no better place to go to get the information about the illegal abduction and the extrajudicial killing going on and what have you of the government of the day. So I thank you very much, Mazi Udeagbalasi. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you viewers for watching. This is Miro African Diaspora TV. My name is Robinson Ambrose Afam Efna. Thank you very much for today. And please do check out our website for more information on these issues. You will also get write-ups from the Int'l Society. And then, yeah, get yourself more informed about what is going on in this country so that you will not be the last to know. Thank you very much. Bye-bye, and have a wonderful evening.